Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Steve Kilbey is here. Hello, how are you?
How are you going, mate?
I'm going very well. Welcome to Melbourne.
Thank you. Thank you.
We turned on the weather for you.
Lovely weather, and it's 63 degrees, sunshine, swans, cygnets.
Cygnets?
Yeah, swans and cygnets in the park.
Very nice. Oh,
Yeah.
were you at Albert Park Lake?
In
or
the Botanic Gardens with my daughter.
Lovely. Fantastic. Steve, when I was a teenager,
Yeah.
and in the 80s in Brisbane, there was Cold Chisel and AC/DC and that sort of thing,
Yeah.
a lot of yelling. But if you didn't like that, there was one band, and that was your band, The Church, that a lot of my friends loved and sort of went in that direction. I think a lot of people had that Heyday record.
Yeah.
I think you're also responsible for people in the middle of summer going out in tight black pants and jeans, and pointy boots and the paisley shirts, with jackets in Brisbane. But what are your memories of that sort of the 80s? That particular time, was that a good time?
It was up and down all the time. Heyday really, we sort of started off with a big bang, and then we kind of went into a bit of a slump. So 81, 82 were really good for us, and then 83, 84, 85 we sort of struggled a bit. And then Heyday came out and we were reborn all over again, and then Starfish came out and we sort of moved up into the next level.
Yes.
But the 80s was sort of at any I never felt secure. I always felt like it all could come to an end at any point in time. And there were always people saying it's pretty funny now to think of it, but people saying in 1983, the Church are washed up. It's all over. They got no prospects, nothing. Yeah, they had a good run. They're not going to play anymore. You should just forget about them. They should stop embarrassing themselves and go home. So it was very insecure. It seemed like it could all end at any moment. It seemed like you were only as big as your last thing that you did. And if radio didn't play your last single and you weren't on Countdown or whatever the benchmark was, it seemed like it all could end very quickly.
Your sort of sound, for me, has been fairly consistent.
Yeah.
Obviously, the songs are different, but there's something, if I put on the most recent Church record that came out in 2017, and then I listen to something like Heyday or Starfish, it's kind of got this film-esque...
continuity.
Yeah, there's a certain air to it. When you're obviously recording in different studios with different producers. What do you do when you go in there? And do they obviously have a knowledge of your history and we're going to try and create this sound? Or what did you do before that?
I think it's just like an author who writes books his whole life. You would expect continuity. Like Shakespeare, you get continuity, and there's a continuity of thought behind the Church, which started with me, and then which Peter Coppice, when he and I started playing together, a certain sound, a certain standard, a certain kind of thing the Church has to be. The Church can't be... If we went in the studio and someone started going, I lost my baby, someone's going to go, but that's not the Church, and that'll be the end of it.
No blues record from you then.
Nothing like that. or millions of other things, whatever it is, it's got to be churchy.
Yeah.
And I guess I'm the number one knower of what should be churchy, but all the other guys in the band sort of know what should be churchy as well. So whatever we do and whoever we work with and wherever it is, it has to be churchy. And that's very hard to define, but we very quickly know when it isn't. Someone will go, you know what, we shouldn't be doing something like this. It isn't, it's beneath us.
So when you started playing, did you start on guitar or did you go straight to bass?
I got a bass. I got a bass for my birthday when I was 16, but at the same time I bought a really cheap acoustic guitar, and I sort of learned to play them. I learned to play chords on a guitar simultaneously, but I never had any intention of being a guitarist. but I always had an intention of being a bass player. But I sort of realised if I wanted to be a songwriter, I should know my way around on a guitar as well.
Did you get lessons?
I never had lessons, no.
Okay,
One day, after I'd been playing bass for about a year, a friend of mine said, I know this guy called Ben. You should give Ben a call, he's a bass player. And I rang up this guy called Ben, and he came round, and in half an hour he gave me a lesson that showed me everything I ever really needed to know, and that was sort of, I think, major and minor scales. So he said, you know, when the guitarist plays A major, you play this scale. When he plays A minor, you do this scale. And he also showed me what Paul McCartney was doing, sliding and slurring. And so he showed me like boom, 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 which seems so obvious, but when you're a 17-year-old bass player, you don't know how Paul McCartney's going, how he's doing that. So he showed me slurring and sliding, and
I can hear that influence in your playing. I can hear that.
The slurring and sliding.
Yeah.
Oh, there's a lot of our second last album. Peter Copper said, "This is our Portamento album. It's all Portamento." He said, "We are the kings of Portamento." So this guy came round and sort of gave me a half hour, he sort of taught me everything he knew about that I would need to keep going for the next. And you know, when I play a minor scale now, when it's a minor chord and I play my little minor scale, I think back to Ben. I can still see him sitting in the living room with his long red hair in Canberra one warm afternoon, showing me everything I could find out about bass in like half an hour. So I recommend everybody do something like that.
Yeah.
But for me, playing bass, playing guitar, writing songs, writing lyrics, recording itself, playing keyboards, all the things I've ever done, I've taught myself. And I feel like teaching yourself is a prerequisite. All the great players I've ever known, all the people I've really respect, they all have taught themselves. And I often wonder about all these colleges where people are learning to play rock and roll. I feel like going along, standing there and going, as soon as you walk in that building, you're already losing your it's. Or when I do a songwriting workshop, which I don't do anymore, but people would go, you know, I would say, first of all, the fact that you're at this songwriting workshop makes me feel like none of you will ever be a songwriter, because songwriters don't go to fucking songwriting workshops, and rock and roll stars don't go to college to learn to be rock and roll stars.
What do you think of, having such a long history in the business? What do you think of all these talent shows that are on TV, and like The Voice?
Well, they're great. Yeah, you're going to find great singers. You're going to find great entertainers, but you're not going to find your fucking next David Bowie. You're not going to find your next Paul McCartney. You're not going to find your next Bob Dylan or whoever you know it is that you respect. You're just going to find a guy who can, like Las Vegas days. You know, like
they seem
Dean Martin. You know, like, everybody. But yeah, you'll find that on a talent show, and you'll find people with talent who can sing. But real talent, I mean, if I'd gone on one of those talent shows, I wouldn't even got an audition. They would have said, who the hell is this guy?
Maybe if you did the Dean Martin song, though.
What's that?
If you did Dean Martin, though, you never know.
If I'd done Dean Martin. But I don't think the people, the judges and stuff, they're not qualified. They can't pick up on the zeitgeist. They're not qualified. They can't see it. They won't know it. They can only know something that's already gone past. A real talent, that Paul Simon song, Every Generation Throws a Hero Up the Pop Charts. The kids have to understand. You have to do something, the kids, that's pretty funny coming from me, but the audience, you have to do something the audience can dig. And I don't think that Seal or one of the girls from the Spice Girls or Guy Sebastian, whoever it is, I don't think they can spot that kind of genius. Just sitting on a TV show, some guy coming on. They don't necessarily know what it is. And I worry that people who go on one of those shows and get rejected might feel they don't have a chance. Whereas I'm always barracking for the guy on his own in a bedroom, slogging it out, figuring it all out, figuring out multi-track recording, figuring out how to sing with himself, figuring out reverbs and echoes and choruses and guitar solos. That's the guy I'm rooting for, the loner, sorting it all out for himself. Because if you learn, as soon as you learn from someone else, you know, you're picking up somebody else's ideas.
What do you think of all of the modern ways of promoting yourself now? So it's less about record sales and more about YouTube views and playing live and.
Look, I don't really know. Look, I'm just a musician. I'm a singer. I'm a songwriter. I play bass guitar. I grew up in a different era. I don't know what people do these days. I don't have any opinion on YouTube and SoundCloud and iTunes and doing set lists for Spotify and this and this and this. I get out a bass guitar and, oh, baby, I want, that's what I do. And however that gets presented or put out there, I'm no longer attached to it.
Do you have a production company that helps with your marketing now? How is that done?
No,
how is your US tour organised?
I just randomly do things like this record that's behind us now. Behind us on the Sydney Rococo on the screen here.
Exactly.
For example, that was a guy came to me and said, I'll give you some money if you'll make a record for me. I go, all right. And he said, I'd like you to make a record that's something like the Electric Light Orchestra. I said, do I get to have strings? And he said, of course. I said, I'm in. Bang. So bang, that one's on. Done, style. Finished.
Very nice.
What the next thing will be, I don't know. I don't know how, for myself, opportunities just are turning up all the time. Would you like to make an album with me? Would you like to write lyrics for this? Would you like to do some songs? With the church, it's more of a sort of a little industry, and with advisors and managers and accountants and lawyers and people going, you should do this and do that and do this and do that. So the church is far more organised and has far more strategies, has a social media person. But me, I'm more like, if I walked in here today and you said, I've got a mate who lives in Taiwan and he wants to make an album and he'll give you $15,000 to go over there and play bass and produce it, I might very well go, all right, yeah, I'll go and do that. I'm not sort of, there's no plan. I just sort of meander along, and just like you contacted me the other day and said, do you want to come in and talk to the guitar colonel? I'm like, yeah, I'll do that. Somebody else will say, do you want to do this? And I'll go, yeah, I'll do that. So I just will meander along and like a whale swallowing the krill of all the opportunities coming my way. And
your whale meandering has worked quite well. But
there you go.
How did you become such a good to great songwriter when you first started? Like what? Because you obviously had a good ear for it. So what? In the beginning, you tried writing some songs. Did you think they were good?
No, but it was much more than that. It was like when I was 4. I always tell this story, but this is the truth. When I was 4, my parents had 2 records. We were very poor. And one of the records was a record by Frank Sinatra called Only the Lonely, which was an album full of these really sad love songs, unrequited love, love lost, accompanied by Nelson Riddle's orchestral arrangements. And the 4-year-old me would sit there and listen to this record and wonder about the way he sang and what all the instruments were doing, and had these things really happened to Frank Sinatra? Or no, he was singing some of the songs other people had written. So what was his relationship then? How did he manifest this? And why did this sad music make me feel happy? And why did my father think this record was so great? And so I was always fascinated with songs and singing and songwriting. The fact that my father was a piano player and always talking about music and extolling the virtues of music sort of helped me. So I was always set up and fascinated with music all along. And I'm like you. I saw kids at school playing the guitar, and voice in my head was outraged, like, that's you. You should be sitting there under that tree, not Ian Haug, strumming the guitar. So I guess when I was 16, I began to put it all into practice. I was like, you know, I'm going to be a bass player and a songwriter, and, you know, Mark Bolan came along, and then David Bowie came along and sort of showed me sort of the way to do it, or the way I could do it, the way I could sort of squeeze in. And from then on in, I just persevered. I don't have a lot of really raw natural talent. I'm not a guy who can just pick up a guitar and go, wah, and people go, fuck. But if you leave me alone with it for sort of 5 or 6 hours, when you come back, I would have hammered something out that came from sort of intelligence and perseverance rather than some raw natural talent.
Yes, yeah. It always surprises me when you have a famous song and the songwriter says, "Oh, I just banged that out in 10 minutes." Like, wow, yeah. Okay, amazing. But so in the writing process, I'll get on to Ian Haug in a minute actually, but yeah. The writing process, are you sitting down with an acoustic guitar, writing yourself, taking it to the band, or the band gets together and jam something out?
Every single way you could imagine. Right. Every single thing, every way you can write a song, I write songs. So a lot of my songs were written with using multi-track to write with. So, you know, which in its simplest state would have been in 1977, I got a domestic 4-track, the first one there ever was. Before that, there were huge, great things. You need 8 guys in white coats to work them and a license. You know what I mean?
Yes.
And T-brakes and all that. Suddenly, TAC made this one. It was like this big. In
okay. Yeah.
1977, I got that home, and I wrote songs by. I might put a drum beat on there, going boom 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 boom, and then I might get a bass guitar and go boom 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 boom. Boom, 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 boom. And then I might get another guitar and go, and then another guitar going, diddle-id, diddle-id, and then a keyboard going, ah, adding and adding and adding and learning how to bounce it down and then put more and more on. Eventually I'd come up with these backing tracks, and then when I had the backing track, the backing track would suggest what I should sing over the top. But I could never say, or I could never tell anyone, I was always just following my nose, that if I put all these little bits, these pointillistic little bits down, something would come out of it in the end. And eventually I started writing songs, and no one could figure out how I was writing these songs, because they weren't the sort of songs you could write sitting down with a guitar and going, ah, da, 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 da. But I also did that as well.
Do you have the melody in your head first, or do you?
No, melody usually is the last thing that comes. Okay. When everything else is recorded, usually I figure out the melody and the lyrics.
So something like Unguarded Moment.
Yeah.
It starts with a classic riff. It's like a C to a G, I think. From memory, it sounds like that. Did you come up with that riff?
Yeah. I would have sat there and gone. You know, it would have been like this.
Oh, yeah,
I would have sat there and gone, I've been sitting on the sofa and gone, and then, would have gone, so, la 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 la. What lyric could that be? Finding in, and then, a bit more of the riff, and sort of then taking along to the band and showing them showing them my clumsy thing that I had, and they would sort of turn it into the song. Yeah, it was sort of like that. Like nothing very grandiose.
Yeah, that's cool. That's a great tune. When I first heard that song, it was like nothing else Australian really that I'd heard at the time. I remember that song very vividly on the radio, and kind of the vocals were a great vocal, but it was kind of an alternative style vocal.
Yeah.
And I thought that's the sound. That's the sound for me.
I just stumbled on all that accidentally. I never, when I was planning the whole thing, I never thought, I'm going to have this sort of is going to be like that. I've just always followed my nose, and sort of things sort of start evolving, and it started turning out in this started happening, and the church started turning into this thing, and I just would let it all happen, and then one day we came up with Unguarded Moment.
That's cool. I was saying to you before, literally right before you walked in the door, I had a mum and her son come in. He's probably, I told him to watch, so, and looking at first guitar, maybe 9 years old, 8, 9 years old, and he came in and he saw this room, and he asked what was going on. I said, we do some YouTube stuff, Facebook stuff, and he said, oh, have you got anyone coming in? I said, oh, Steve Kilbey's coming in, and he said, from the church, I'm learning Under the Milky Way right now. Did you ever think back at that particular time that song or your songs would be, like Australian anthems?
Of course not. Like, imagine as I'm writing it, and then I say, one day, kids all around the world will be learning to play this. It's sort of like,
it's like
no, you never think that. You never think that stuff. You just no. It's it's like, let's write a song, and you write it and bang it.
Did you think it would be a hit?
Under the Milky Way? No. It was just, I was writing so many songs. I was writing a couple of songs every day. Sometimes if you hadn't seen me for a week, I'd have a cassette with 14 new songs that no one had heard. Listen to this one.
How long did it take you to write that song? You just wrote that at home on an acoustic guitar?
I wrote it on a piano. I wrote that one with my girlfriend at the time. I wrote it on a piano, and then she came down and I said, listen to this chord progression. And then we mucked around with a melody, and I'd say it would all have been over within about 10 minutes.
Right.
It was written. It was done. It was written, put to bed. We forgot about it. Let's now go and do something else.
There you go.
Not like, I think we've written a number one hit song that the kids will be learning in 30 years' time on guitar.
It's amazing. You were following me around the world at that particular moment, because I'm originally Canadian, and I left Brisbane, went back to Canada in '89, and that was a massive hit over there.
Yeah.
Oh my God, that's. I kind of felt proud to be. I think of myself as Australian. Really,
yeah.
But yeah.
I'm whatever side is winning.
Can I ask you about Under the Milky Way? Would you be so kind as to, you don't have to, but to play the chords for me? Because I know it starts with an A minor 7, so you've got that top G.
Okay.
But do you put the D on the B string in there?
Okay. Well, there's two things. First of all, it's two. It probably is two guitars with one with a capo.
Right.
So, but the way I play it is this. So, the second chord is like an A suspended fourth, isn't it?
That almost looks like an.
It's A minor, and then you add in the D, correct. So it's A suspended fourth.
Yep.
But of course, the revolutionary thing about this song is, what does the bass play?
What does the bass?
So the guitar's going.
That's an F major 7.
But now I'll attempt to do what the bass does with my thumb. So the bass goes.
Oh, you put the F sharp in. Wow.
So
that's cool. That's what I missed.
So the F sharp comes in on the
over the
A suspended 4.
sus4.
Yeah,
cool.
Which is what makes it gives it that.
Yes.
Gives it that thing.
Yeah,
and then of course with a capo.
Yes.
The other guitar plays it up here.
Right.
With the capo there plays the same progression. So you've got one playing it down there, and you've got one playing it up here as well.
Do you put the sus4 in on the bar chord?
What's that?
Do you put the sus4, the D?
Yeah, of course. It's all the same thing.
Right.
On the up here on the up there on that. Yeah.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
I like the way. So if you're watching this at home, can you play your A minor again? Okay. If you're watching that at home, Steve inverts he's got his third finger.
It's supposed to be like that, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, it's whatever. You can do whatever you like.
And you know what? Here's my other thing.
You can definitely do whatever.
Every song I've ever written, I never play F. I always play
Oh, they play
Every
major
fucking
7.
song, every fucking song is that. I never play.
Too much David Bowie for you.
And here's another thing.
Yeah.
When I play G, I never use the B string. I always mute it.
Okay.
My Gs are always like that. So someone who's playing.
You put the.
So someone who plays my song with a G going, I go, don't do that.
That's a
I
power
go, use
G.
that finger to block that string.
You've got your pinky on the high G and your third finger's on the D note there.
This finger is blocking out the A string. It's muting it.
Do you play, if you were to play a C now, okay, so you go back to a normal C?
C is a normal C, I think. But yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like that. That is the famous rock and roll G. If you have to, if you're playing Ziggy Stardust, you have to leave that B out.
Is that what they do?
Well, yes, pretty much like AC/DC, Mick Ronson, all
it just
all the
doesn't.
bowl and whatever.
It just shouldn't be there.
No,
I don't know why.
Major third's just a bit too much. So.
On the G it is, but
yeah, everything else works.
Yeah, but just not on the G.
Cool. I never knew that there was an F sharp. Now we're getting nerdy, but I didn't know there was an F sharp in the bass of that A minor, because normally people will thumb over the F sharp to a D major.
Yeah, but the
which is almost kind of like that, but similar.
It is a kind of a D. The A suspended fourth is a kind of a D chord.
Yeah, it's close.
And F sharp goes with D, right?
Yeah. If you took your
but you see, the thing is, I wrote it on the piano. See, right. You see, yeah. I didn't write it and go, that on that second chord it should be an F sharp and bass. It's how it was written on the piano.
Right.
So on the piano it didn't sound like so much because when you move the bass and the chords around on a piano, when it's all contained on one instrument, it's not such a big thing. Yeah. But when you have two separate instruments and the guitar is actually playing the A suspended fourth and the bass is actually playing the F sharp, there's this really interesting gulf that happens between them, which has a really... And it's strange, it seems like nobody else has ever done it before. It's like it's like I've never heard another song that actually does that such.
When you play your A minor, you've got your third or second finger on that. That's an E note, and then you put the F sharp in. That's like a second. So if you took your finger
but it's no longer an A minor. When the F sharp comes in, it's not an A minor anymore. It's an A suspended fourth.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And so the bass could be a D. But then it wouldn't have that feeling.
Yeah,
it has.
that's
something about the F sharp, it didn't. As I was saying, when I wrote it on the piano, it was okay. I mean, it still sounded like Under the Milky Way.
Yeah.
But it wasn't until it actually got transposed onto the guitar and the bass that that real magic happened.
Yeah, that's cool. I'm glad you showed me that. I just couldn't. For the life of me, I've tried playing that before, and I never put the F sharp in. So most excellent.
Well, it's hard to play. For me, you saw I fumbled it. I've seen guitarists who do it really easy, add the bass notes in with their thumb. I'm just not proficient enough to do that.
Well, you wrote it, so you can do whatever you want.
Yeah.
Speaking of guitars and guitarists, young Ian Haug is in your band.
Yeah.
And I was mentioning to you before that I'm pretty sure it was Ian. He may remember this, but I remember him playing guitar at our school, and with another guy just sitting on the ground somewhere, and I looked at that and I thought, I want to be able to do that. So, and then of course he became quite successful in Powderfinger. How did you get onto Ian? Like, how did that come about?
Well, apparently, I don't remember this, but when the church used to play in the 80s, Hoagie and JC, the bass player, used to hang around after the show and come and ask questions and talk to us and stuff like that. I don't remember that. The first time I really met him was at a pop festival in Launceston, when they were just absolutely massive.
Yes.
And the church were nobody. We hadn't started our resurgence. We were just and Ian and I talked a bit, and then we met at Grant McLennan's funeral.
Right.
And we both discovered that we'd been really very close friends of Grant's. And then every now and then, I I remember one night I was lying in bed at 4 o'clock in the morning, back in the old days of phones. The phone rang. I answered it, and there's a voice of phone. This voice goes, "I know all your songs, but you don't know any of mine." And I went, "Who the fuck is this?" "It's Ian Haug." I said, "What the fuck, man? You know, call me at a decent hour," and hung up. And then anyway, when Marty left the band, I was having a conversation and I was saying, the next guy we get in can't be a little skinny guy with glasses. He's got to be a big guy, and he's got to have his own mojo. He can't be an unknown. He's got to be some person that's already got their own mojo, got his own stage presence, his own thing. And somebody else I knew said, "Don't you know Ian Haug?" And I went, as soon as I heard that name, I went, "That's it." I rang him up. "Hello, Ian. Yeah, Steve Kilbey." "Hi, Steve. What's going on?" I said, If I asked you to join the church, what would you say?" He said, "I'd say yes." And I said, "All right. My people will be talking to your people," and hung up, and that was it. And he joined on the spot when I rang him up.
Very good timing.
Yeah.
I think at Powderfinger...
They'd broken up. Yeah, right. No, they'd broken up. So Ian, I always felt like Ian was a guy that needed a band.
Yes,
I think if there was the spirit of Powderfinger, when you saw Powderfinger, the keeper of the flame, the guy, it seemed to me, the guy behind it all, even though Bernie was the wonderful voice up front, it seemed that the rock and roll heart behind that was Ian.
Yes. Well, I mean, when I went to Canada in 88, 89, I think he was doing covers. I could be wrong here. I think I'm right though. Covers at the Pineapple Hotel. I don't know if you remember that hotel in Brisbane. And then when I came back in 91,
he was doing the fucking Theatre Royale.
He was selling out these. And locally, you know, it's the biggest thing since.
They're the biggest band Australia's ever had.
I think so.
Yeah.
I think so. When you play in the US, I think from what I understand, you guys had more success over there than Powderfinger.
Well, they didn't have any success.
Right.
They didn't really have any success. I think they had some pockets where they'd had a little bit of action, but the church had like Starfish sold 1 million copies.
Yeah.
So
that's a lot.
Yeah.
When people come to the gigs, do they know Ian from the other band, or
No, they don't. But Ian, it's strange to think now. Ian joined in 2013. He's been in the band 6 years.
Yeah.
He's a fixture now. Yeah. Like, we do a whole tour and we don't hear one thing about Marty. Like, oh, he's no Marty, or where's Marty, or I'll never think. It's like, I think the fans have really embraced Ian.
And he's instrumental in the writing process of the new
He's
group.
Totally, the 2 albums we made with him, he was, every morning he'd be singing and going, "I've got an idea, look, and what about this, and what about this, and how about we do this?" He was completely one of the prime movers. Yeah, he was no blushing violet. He jumped straight in and had 1 million ideas, which is what we wanted.
Yes. Well, I love his. I don't know how he's getting all these sounds, or I haven't checked out his pedal board. Oh,
he's got enough pedals to sort of cause a small city in Asia to black out for a night. Seriously, there's a lot of electricity running through those pedals. Yeah.
I love the sound of that last record. I especially like the track. Is it called Another Century?
Yeah, that was a good song. Yeah.
Is that? I mean, I don't know. Did you release singles or anything? Because that sort of stands out to me. It's like if I was in a record company, which I'm not.
No, that's a really special song.
Yeah, I love the sound of that.
Yeah.
How was that written?
I picked up. We had an omnichord.
Right.
And sometimes we have exercises that I dream up, and one of them was I picked up this omnichord, and it's just, you can just play any chord. So I'm not very good at chords. Like, I'm a bass player, and I can't, if someone said to me play a C sharp minor on a guitar quickly, I couldn't. I'd be like, But on an omnichord, you've got every chord there.
Right.
So I just picked up the omnichord and I went, ma, ba, ba, ba. I went, that's the first part of the song. And the next part will be, ba, 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 ba. And then the third part will be, and then I'm like, now you guys translate that into guitars and drums and bass. We'll play this little chord progression that came off the omnichord. And you know what an omnichord is? People watching this know what an omnichord is.
Explain.
It's like it looks like a little plastic guitar, and it's got a button on there so you can play an A major, an A minor, an A7.
I know what you're talking about.
I think that's all it does. I think it does majors, minors, and sevenths.
Yeah.
So for every chord in the book, you can quickly and easily hit this button, and it will play that chord, and as long with a little beat. So you can have. It'll sort of do it bum bum with a bass if you like bum bum bum, and you can. I think Neil Finn uses them.
Yeah.
You can certainly hear. You can often hear. Wow, that's how you get that beatly. You can, and without having to do all the tedious fucking around with a guitar.
Yeah.
You can quickly see how all these chords will sound lined up with each other. You can quickly jump from thing to thing.
What's the change when you sing the word something's nice? It comes out of the chorus.
Yeah.
So something's nice. And then there's a chord change over that. And I love that chord change. Is that just going back to the first chord in the song? Or
It is going back for first chord in the song, but it's unusual. It goes F sharp, D, E minor. I think it ends on an E. The chorus ends on an E minor, but then the verse starts on an F. Something about going from the E minor in the chorus to the F in the verse gives you this sort of interesting little lift.
I love that. I love that sound. I think that the American band, I think a lot of bands, but the American band MGMT.
Oh, Management. Yeah.
I reckon they've listened to a lot of your stuff, because when I listen to that record, I'm like, I agree
with you. I think MGMT have listened to us. I think a lot of people have listened to us.
Absolutely.
A lot of them give us acknowledgement, and a lot of them don't. I think a lot of people have listened to a lot of things that we've done, just like we've listened to a lot of things that maybe we never gave. I've did a lot of listening to a band called Bebop Deluxe.
Oh yeah.
Bill Nelson.
Yeah.
I took so much stuff from him that you never see me talking about in interviews, but it's true.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of bands have taken a lot of stuff from the church. A lot of really big bands.
Yeah. Absolutely.
And some of them, actually do covers, and other ones. And weird things like I read an interview in Guitar. Someone sent me this guitar magazine. It's Billy Joe Armstrong from Green Day.
Oh yeah.
Who's your favourite guitar band? The Church.
Wow.
What are your memories of teenage days? And you go, sitting in my bedroom listening Top 40 radio, and one night they had Metropolis on there by The Church.
Yeah,
there's a lot of people have been influenced by what we've done.
What influenced you when you were younger?
Well, it was Bolan and Bowie.
Yeah.
It was, of course I loved the Beatles and Stones and Dylan and all the rest. And of course I went on loving things after Bolan and Bowie. But Bolan and Bowie was when I sort of went, this is how I can do it. Up until then I was like, well, this is all very well for the Beatles and Bob Dylan, but I can't be the Beatles or Bob Dylan. That's not me. But when Bolan did it, and then when Bowie did it, I went, now I can see how I can do it.
Did you ever get to meet David
Never
Bowie?
met either of them, no. Probably a good thing.
Yeah.
I probably would have pissed them off.
Maybe or maybe not. Depends. When you met them, I'll show you this after, but I have a signed copy of Lodger from when he was here in '87. I didn't go see that tour, but I picked it up at a flea market not so long ago. I couldn't believe it. But I finally got to see him in 2004 on the last tour.
Yeah.
But I wanted to go in '83, and my mother said, I'll take you. And I'm like, no, I can't go with my mother to David Bowie. And then, of course, 2004, I took my mother. Did you see him live a few times?
I saw him live, and it was awful.
Oh, wow.
And I saw Mark Bolan live, and that was awful too.
You saw Mark Bolan?
I saw Mark Bolan. I saw Mark Bolan in Sydney, and I went along with my friend. Both of us were incredible T-Rex nuts, and we went along. And Lobby Lloyd opened, and Lobby Lloyd was better than T-Rex by a million miles. And Mark Bolan, he played for about 2 hours, and it consisted of 6 songs that would just go in, like you do Get It On, and then you just go into these like half-hour guitar solos.
Oh, right.
So it's just like, with Bolan playing a solo over the top and sort of running around. And even to me and my friend, who were the most devoted Mark Bolan fans, after about 5 minutes of this, we were like, this is fucking awful. And then I went to see Bowie during the Glass Spider tour.
Oh, yeah. That was supposed to be terrible.
It was fucking awful. I don't care. I love David. Nobody on earth could love David Bowie more than me. But the fucking Glass Spider tour was shit. It was shit.
What did the Glass Spider actually do?
The Glass Spider came down at some stage, and he had reinterpreted all his songs and had a new look, and had a band full of. He had a guy playing the guitar with a golden dildo vibrator.
Is that Peter Frampton? Wasn't Peter
Frampton was in it too, and there was another guy whose trick, he'd get out this golden vibrator and put it on the guitar, and the guitar's going, but whatever it was, the spirit of Bowie, of whatever I wanted from Bowie, had was not there. It was like a spectacle. It was like the most pointless, stupid waste of time. And only, you know, I'm not so much of a fan of anybody that I go, I will put up with anything you do. And I was really disappointed with Bolan. I was really disappointed with Bowie. But I know on other nights, Bolan or Bowie at Hammersmith doing Ziggy Stardust or something, I would have been in heaven. Yeah. But on this particular night, like in 1987 in America, in an arena, it was shit. Yeah. Sorry guys, it was really, it was rubbish.
That tour did get panned.
It deserved to be panned. It was the most feeble thing I've ever seen.
What do you give me some Bowie albums that you love?
Well, I love Man Who Fell to Earth. I love Hunky Dory. I love Ziggy Stardust. I love Aladdin Sane. I really, really, really super love Diamond Dogs.
Oh yeah,
it's probably my favourite.
That on vinyl.
And then of course Young Americans and Station to Station. And then I really love Low and Heroes. And then I pretty much cut out. Then I pretty much, it's pretty hit and miss. Every now and then something amazing would come through, but a lot of stuff I couldn't. And, you know, I keep meaning to go back and, you know, people have said to me, Steve, you've got to listen to Outside. You've got to give it another chance. You've got to sit down and listen to it. And maybe I will, but... so the last thing I really liked, I think, was Black Star.
Yeah, Black Star's good.
Which... I found quite irresistible. And of course tonight I'm going to see Lazarus with a completely open mind.
Yes.
If it's rubbish, I'm not going to be sitting there going, it's David. I think David was capable of, he sort of went off the boil. I mean, but he'd done so much.
Yeah, he had a very long career.
He'd made so many amazing records. He had no more onus on him to do something incredible.
No. Low is the one I can't get on vinyl.
You can't find it on vinyl?
No. Well, I can find a few, but they're very expensive because it went out of print. I think you can get it as part of a box set.
Okay.
But then I've already got all the other ones. So
when I thought Low was a masterpiece, and it got a lot of bad reviews at the time. Do you know at the time it only sold 15,000 copies?
Really?
It did nothing.
God. Wow.
But
such a great record.
I remember the review. Charles Shaw Murray, who'd been a Bowie expert, like a big champion, he said, if this is what Bowie's going to do, why don't him and Eno just trade tapes in the mail and spare the rest of us the drudgery? And I was going, no, this is something really special here.
I love the sound of that. The pop. It's kind of got one side of pop style songs and then the other side's like
of instrumentals, weird experimental. Yeah. Bowie sings his own language. Subterraneans.
Yeah, it's a great record.
You know, like when you hear that record, you feel like he wasn't a mere mortal.
No,
he sort of had a a glimpse into another world. Mind you, he's playing with guys like Brian Fripp and fucking Robert Fripp and Brian Eno.
Yeah.
You know, so.
Do you like Robert Fripp, King Crimson? Sort of
I love
stuff,
Crimson and Eno. If I had those guys at my beck and call, I think I could do something pretty good.
I like Adrian Belew's guitar work as well on some of his records.
I like Belew. I really don't like Reeve Gabriel's.
No, same.
I don't. Yeah. I'm like, of all the guitarists you could have, why did you have him? He was sort of like, that's the sort of guitar playing I hate. I hate that. I hate that sort of guitar playing. I love Mick Ronson.
Yes.
Melodic, powerful, majestic, but someone just sort of going like strangling a cat on every song. I couldn't.
Never good.
I don't know why Bowie thought that was great, and I don't know why Bowie had him as a full-on collaborator. To me, he just. I didn't like Tin Machine either.
No, I recently went back and listened to a little bit of Tin Machine. Tin Machine 2's got a couple of good.
One good track.
Yeah.
Album La Pura.
Oh yeah.
It's like in the middle of all this rubbish, suddenly there's like a Bowie track from the old days, like a track that was left off Aladdin Sane or something. Am La Pura. This weird chord progression and all of that.
Yeah, every now and then over the since the late 80s through to 2016, he would come up with some gems.
Under Pressure.
Yeah, classic.
Like, how can you argue with that?
Yeah.
Like, he was part of that. I don't know exactly what he did, but the bits he did on that are incredible. Yeah, and then Black Star, and but then a load of tedious stuff I couldn't understand or get into at all.
Yeah, there's some terrible albums.
It seemed to me, I'm sorry, it seemed to me he lost his way, and he didn't know, and that's something that's never happened to me. I've never lost my way.
No.
I've always known what I'm doing and where I'm going.
Yeah.
But I looked at Bowie, and it seemed at some point he was bewildered as to what he should do next, and he could no longer follow his natural inclination.
I think it was good for him to take 10 years off, because I think 05, 04, they had the Reality album tour, and then no one heard from him for 10 years, and then the next day's got some great stuff on.
Look, I had a girlfriend who swore by Reality and was always playing, going, listen, I've made this record, it's the best bit of Heathen, the best bit of Reality, you've got to listen to this, and was always playing and always listened to it. I couldn't get into it. I don't know why. Same. I don't know what it was. And I mean,
I don't like the production on it either. I don't know who was producing it.
I know Losing Your Way seems a bit of a strange way to put it. Yeah. It seemed like he'd lost his modus operandi. He didn't know why he was writing songs anymore. Yeah, whereas up until then, when you hear a song like the Bewlay Brothers, you'd go, someone had to write that song.
Yeah.
It's like, if it was necessary for someone to write that, and it's so full of meaning, it's almost unbearable to hear. And then later on albums like Never Let Me Down and, for Christ's sake, Tonight. Yeah. But even then, Loving the Alien.
Oh yeah, that's a good track.
So in the midst of all this ruin, and is a song like Loving the Alien with one of those Bowie chord progressions and the singing, and so you could never really. He was the master, and you could never really write him off. You could never know what he might come up with.
Yeah, no, he's fantastic. He was my childhood hero.
Insanely talented beyond. The likes of him only comes along once in a very blue moon.
Yes.
Someone who's good at, not only could he, he had the best haircut and the best fucking, he had the best body and the best, the way his eyes looked and his voice and his moves and the shit, the literary influences and things he threw in. He was just the master.
Yes.
There's only one of them every 100 years or so.
Absolutely. I read somewhere that he is even more influential on music than Elvis Presley. They have the most influential people on modern music, and they put him above Elvis.
But of course, what did Elvis Presley was a look and a vocal style and a kind of pop star, and I would never take that away from him. But as an musical innovator, he wasn't. Yeah, he wasn't. Bowie invented all these genres, and you can't even compare the two. I mean, look, I wouldn't take anything away from Elvis, But you know, Bowie was an innovator and a writer and a creator, and Elvis was a rock and roll star.
That's true. That's very true. Speaking of producers, and I know you're busy, so I won't hold you too much longer, but I was looking at the credits on Starfish, and listed there is Waddy Wachtel.
Wachtel.
Wachtel. Is
Wachtel, it's pronounced.
I always pronounce it wrong. How did he get involved? For those of you who don't know who he is, I think he's in Keith Richards' Expensive Wino band.
He is. Well, it was just a case of we got signed to Arista Records, and Arista Records said, "We want you to use these guys, Waddy Wachtel and Greg Ladani," and we said, "All right, we will."
Never met him.
Never met them, and
went to LA.
Well, I was at that stage. I was confident enough. It didn't really matter who the producer was going to be, because I sort of knew what I wanted to do anyway. The producer helps you get the cream on top of the cake, but I don't need a producer to tell me what sort of record I'm going to make. I already know what I'm going to do. I just need the producer to help me get it out there and get all the bits and pieces done. So I didn't really care who they were. I already knew I was going to make, I knew the Church was going to make a great record, and it was really irrelevant whether it was them or you or the dog. It's whoever, give me a studio, give me a fucking producer, I don't care who he is, and I'll make my record. And if the record company's going, well, we're spending all this money, we want you to use these guys, I'm like, fine, all right.
How do your records always end up like just with that sound though? It's like it's such a distinct
because we know
Church sound,
because as I said before, if it stops sounding like that, someone will go, we can't do this because it's not sounding like us anymore. So we immediately know how we've got to sound and what we've got to do. We're aware of our own continuity. We're aware of the things that we hate and the things that we can't have on our records. You'll never hear a sort of an AC/DC riff. You'll never hear a meh, meh. You'll never hear that on Church record.
Yes.
It just won't be there.
That was a good impression.
What's that?
That was a good impression.
or not because they're bad, just because they're not for us.
Yes.
Just like if I had a sort of a cordon bleu restaurant, I would know what I could serve and what I couldn't serve. And I would know that there were certain dishes I would never serve in my restaurant, and there are others that I will take a gamble on. This is my thing, this is my oeuvre, I know what the Church should be, and so the other guys in the band, we're all very well aware of what it should be, and we know where the bar is, and we can't go below our bar. It has to be, things have to have they have to be sort of relatively, have a certain degree of musical complexity and panache and sophistication. It can't just be, my baby. It just can't be that, because there's other people doing that and doing it much better.
Yeah, stadium rock. After this, you're going to England.
Yeah.
Next week.
I'm going to England next week.
And you've got some. You have to get the drummer, but I have a girlfriend called Amanda Kramer, and she plays piano in the Psychedelic Furs. Oh right! Wow, cool.
Okay, and she and I are working on an album of music, and she's got a Steinway in her living room, and I go around her place and I strum guitar and she plays piano. So she and I are working on music. We've already done a couple of little tours. We're going to do a tour of England in September, she and I, but we did some shows in London earlier this year. I love working with piano, and sometimes I get off the guitar altogether and I'm just a singer. I finally get to live out my Frank Sinatra dream of having this beautiful piano playing behind me, and I can, what's new? Pardon my asking, what's new? And I can be the crooner.
Be a good crooner.
I'm the crooner I always wanted to be.
Was that a Roy? What was the title of that Frank Sinatra album you had when you were a kid?
It was called Only the Lonely.
So he was covering the Roy Orbison song?
No. That's way before Roy Orbison. Roy Orbison's Only the Lonely. And the Frank Sinatra one was, each place I go, only the lonely go.
I wonder if...
Yeah.
I wonder what year that was.
It was like late 50s, all done in one take on a half-track machine. So the whole band, like all the instruments, the orchestra, and Sinatra, one take.
Wow.
Mic'd up,
Wow.
and bang, they all nail it, one take.
I wonder.
Yeah, there was no overdubbing, no...
Is that a Quincy Jones? He used to be Sinatra's band leader there for a while.
This was long before that. This was Nelson Riddle, who was an incredible arranger. So when Sinatra would sing about the moon or the rain or the sea, a little instrument in the orchestra would rush in and show you when the stars came out, or when his girlfriend disappeared, or even this marvelous moment in what probably my most favourite song ever written, a song called Angel Eyes, when at the very end of the song Sinatra goes, "Excuse me while I disappear." And as he disappears, the harp and the violins make this magical music. And we see him right before our eyes. We see Sinatra disappear. That's the sort of shit that got me hooked. Going, holy fuck.
Yeah.
I want to make music that you can disappear and vanish and appear, and magical and wonderful, amazing things can happen. And luckily it was that record I was exposed to, where you had all these guys, so you had the best songwriters in the world. I mean, the songs that he covered on that album, everyone an impeccable torch ballad of lost love. And then you've got this arranger, Nelson Riddle, the top of his game, like a guy you'd get in if they're, making a movie about ancient Egypt or whatever the fuck, and you want the best orchestrator you can get, Nelson Riddle. And then Frank Sinatra, who I have to say was singing in a whole new way, because up until Bing Crosby and Sinatra, singing was like or was like, when trust to feel my girl, she was on. Suddenly these guys came along and go, no, I'm going to sing like I'm in a bar. So when Sinatra's is going, excuse me while I disappear, he's singing it like that. He's not singing it with some and so is Bing Crosby. These guys, for the first time, they sang in a conversational way. They didn't adopt this way of singing that up until then all male singers had. They were like, I'm going to sing like I'm sitting in a bar. The piano's playing, the girl's there, the one that's broken my heart. I'm going to sing to her, each place I go, only the lonely go. Not with some big fucking assumed persona. I'm going to sing as just like a bloke singing. And that's the breakthrough that Sinatra made. His voice was easy to listen to. It was conversational. It was like he was in the room. You could understand who he was. He was just a sad guy walking along a beach or whatever it was in winter, and his girlfriend had left him, or he'd seen her with another guy. But whatever it was, he was singing it in a natural voice. And that's what I've always tried. That's something about Milky Way. It's like, it isn't like, sometimes when this place gets kind. It's like sometimes, I sang it like in the studio, sometimes when this place gets kind of, it was like that, conversational.
Where did you record? So I dragged the church up on Spotify, and of course the most popular songs come up. Under the Milky Way is there, of course, and then there's another version, which is it's an acoustic version, but it's not just a strum.
Oh, and it's got piano and
what's that?
So it's off an album called El Momento Descuidado, where we wrote some new songs, and we also went back and rejigged some other songs acoustically. I think quite Under the Milky Ways.
It's great.
I think quite unsuccessfully. Oh. We fucked around with it and didn't do it any favours. Unguarded Moment, on the other hand, we got this country, like almost Velvet Underground version of Unguarded Moment, where it turns into this something else. So I think we rediscovered that one and added to it. I think Under the Milky Way, our attempt to whatever we were trying to do with it was a miserable failure. And I tend now with Under the Milky Way, I want to just do it as it is. Do it as you heard it on the record. When with a church do it, or when I do it with whoever I'm doing it with, I'm trying to get it to sound like that. I'm not trying to do some new thing with it, because people don't want that.
I saw an interview with you where you were saying you're very happy to still play that song.
Yeah.
Because it's a great song, it's a classic song, versus like...
Shut up your face. Yeah, no, imagine that. Okay, you're saddled with a song, right?
Yeah.
You're saddled with a song. If you're saddled with Under the Milky Way, it's a song, even if I live to 100 years old and they still drag me out on stage, when I walk out there and go, sometimes when this place gets kind of empty, there will be no contradiction. It could be your friend, the 8-year-old boy who's learning to play it. When he plays it, sometimes when this place gets kind of empty. A housewife, an old man, a young man, a foreigner, a Native American, an Aborigine, whoever can do that song. It's a universal song. It's not about being young and sexy or anything at all. It's just like a abstract comment. It conjures up an atmosphere and it goes away. On the other hand, imagine being chained to every night. You've got to go, I would walk 5,000 miles and I would, or hey, shut up in your face, or whatever the fuck that novelty song is. Or imagine having to sing, you're the voice, try and understand it. You know, some painful, boring, turgid. But Under the Milky Way is like a mere slip of a song. It doesn't say anything. It doesn't wear out its welcome. It doesn't hit you over the head with any philosophy. It doesn't say be young and violent or be old and peaceful or anything. It's like a dessert. It's like a beautiful dessert comes out. You eat it. It takes 3 minutes. And you go, gee, that was nice, and that's it. You know what I mean? And I'm very lucky that my song that I have to do for the rest of my life forever, no matter what I do. Because if I turn up anywhere and do anything, if I don't do Under the Milky Way, it's simply being churlish, because people want to hear it. So I'm happy that it is that song, and that it isn't, there's nothing in that song that contradictory to whoever I am now. You know, even if I undergo a transition and become a woman and I next appear with breasts and long red curly hair, I can still walk up and go, sometimes when this place gets kind of... And it can still be me, you know what I mean?
You can come back here and we can discuss that.
There you go.
On that cheery note, I'll give you a customary handshake.
Okay, mate.
Steve
Thank
Kilbey.
you, Guitar Colonel, for having me on.
I salute you.
And what about Panda the dog, who's just fearlessly helped this whole thing happen?
She's pretty good until someone cranks the electric guitar and blows
or goes,
a little...
Whoa!
Cool. Well, thanks so much,
okay, mate.
Steve.
All right.
And if you would like to see Steve and the church play in England, I'll post up some links.
Well, we hopefully...
Dependent on drummers.
Hopefully dependent on drummers. The church, I think it's the 7th of June, 6th or 7th of June, we're doing our church convention in London, and then we're going to do Edinburgh, Manchester, and I think Liverpool.
Were you just there last year as well? Was it last year or the year before?
Yeah, we were there last year.
I have a friend of mine in London. She went and saw you. So, Susie Stapleton, if you're watching.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
Susie Stapleton?
Yes.
She opened for us.
Oh, did she?
The guitarist and singer.
Yeah. She's from Melbourne.
She's a mate of ours.
Oh, right.
Is she Australian?
Yeah, she's Australian, yeah.
But she's talking with an English accent and stuff now.
She's been over there a few years. Yeah.
I didn't know she was Australian.
6, 7, she certainly
wow,
is.
all that time she never said anything.
Yeah, no, she is. She's, I think she's originally Australian. Yeah, definitely.
Okay.
No,
I think
she's
she's doing
Melbourne,
well.
so.
She's sort of like a, she was playing with an electric guitar.
Black Les Paul.
Yeah, and she sort of like had a Chrissy Hine, PJ Harvey kind of wallop.
Yes, that's it.
Like a sort of like, don't fuck with me sort of wallop behind her. I remember standing there going, I hope I never piss her off and she writes a song aimed at me.
She's only little.
I reckon she could. Yeah, but I reckon she could rip shreds off you with one of those songs.
She's very lovely. We used to live in the same building together.
Oh, cool.
And then, we saw her a couple of times in Melbourne.
I'll probably be seeing her this time round.
Hey, cool. Well, say hello.
I will.
Say hello from us and Panda, and good luck, sir. Ciao, folks. So if you're watching on YouTube, please subscribe. We need your subscriptions.
Yeah, keep those cards and that money rolling in. We only need another 300,000.
Well, 300,000 subscribers and money would be good, but it's a tough game. Thank you, Steve.
Okay, mate.
We're out of here.